Jack O'Shea from Bayside.
Yes.
So, what was your first concert?
My first concert that I was brought to, actually my parents brought me to my first concert, and it was Chuck Mangione at the Canadian National Exhibit, I believe in probably 1978 or 79. So I was young, and I remember that, and I still strangely have an affinity for Chuck Mangione to this day.
Who is good?
Yeah, no, it's great. I think it was, I guess as an appreciator of jazz music now, it's funny that I've come back to him a little bit later in life, and I've been like, as much as in the middle years, like when I was kind of really growing up and listening to a lot of punk rock, I was kind of like, Chuck Mangione, whatever, man. But now when I've gone back and listened to him, I was like, that guy who plays guitar with Chuck Mangione is actually pretty smoky. He's like a really good fusion player. I'm like, oh, okay. So, but yeah, I went to that, and I remember my parents were never big on taking me to a lot of like the music that I really grew up listening to. The music that I really loved tended to be a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more either hardcore metal or kind of punk rock. So I kind of drifted away. But now in later life, I've been able to kind of come back, and I do go to a lot of concerts with my mother still.
What do you recommend parents taking their kids and staying at the shows?
Absolutely. Well, it's great too. I mean, on the one hand, it's nice. I think it's really great for a parent to be involved with, obviously, to have a better understanding what their children are being exposed to or what they're listening to. I mean, I feel very fortunate to be in a band where we do seem to have a decent number of parents coming with their children, and sometimes we'll see 3 generations of people at the same show, which is remarkable. For me, I attribute that to some of the musicality of our band, but certainly I like the fact that we're a hard rock band, but we don't really do a lot of screaming. We're not really big on unnecessary cursing on stage. We tend to keep it pretty true to what we're doing. I don't think we're not out certainly to be in any fights. So we're trying our best to be decent role models as well as decent musicians. So I'm always really happy to meet people who are coming with full families. But yeah, absolutely. One thing I really feel like I missed out on, and I know my parents really never understood why I was listening to kind of music I did. And now later in life, when I'm doing this professionally, I feel like they might have missed out on a big part of not only my childhood but my life in general, because this is, it's what I've always been passionate about. And it's kind of, not only is it my job, but it's my identity in a lot of respects. And I think that as much as a parent can participate or be involved or at least be aware of what could potentially be that influential, that big in a person's life, it's certainly important, in my opinion.
Last question: is there anybody that's touring now of older bands that you recommend that kids go with their parents to see?
Us.
I meant Peter Gabriel or whatever.
Oh yeah. So, well, I mean, I've been fortunate enough to have seen Van Morrison a number of times, and that was one that my dad is not necessarily a very musical person, but the Van Morrison has always been like his one thing, and I've been lucky enough to see him a handful of times, and that was phenomenal. As a guitar player, though, I would recommend, if ever there's an opportunity to see the Guitar Trio play, that was one of the most. That was one of the best performances I've ever seen, and that is a trio of kind of virtuoso guitar players made up of John McLaughlin, Al Di Meola, and Paco de Lucia. And it's a kind of a Spanish classical influence concert. Usually it would be more in an opera house setting. It certainly wouldn't be in a club setting, but as an appreciator, if you have a general appreciation of music, that will blow your doors off. It's absolutely one of the most phenomenal things I've ever seen. Also, I mean, it's really, in terms of contemporary music, it's great, but I think that if you're a kid who's trying to get your parents to come out, I'm always dragging my mom to jazz and more instrumental stuff, because I think once you taking lyrics out of it has always been like one of my mom's major things. Like, it's one of the reasons she didn't want to come see Iron Maiden with me or something like that, where it's like, I don't really get it. Like, it sounds cool. It's like really kind of operatic and neoclassical in a way, which I get, but just not into like the leather pants and screaming and yelling. So
no
I drag my mom to a lot of. I shouldn't say I drag her to shows, but we have kind of a mutual dragging where we've gone to see like Alison Krauss. We've gone to see a lot of like Chick Corea, Sonny Rollins. Bill Frisell is one of my favorites that we've gone to see. That having been said, though, I have dragged my mom to see Guar before, which is... I won one of those arguments once. And she went, and she was like, well, I'm never going to that again. I was like, well, you don't have to. You saw it once. That's enough. But, there's plenty of stuff. I mean, if music speaks to you, music is it's overlooked as an art form, because it seems very just current and very cultural and like, oh, whatever, it's this band, but music is really art, and if it speaks to you as a person and you want to share that with your family, I think that there has to be some level of open-mindedness. There's something that no matter what it is, if no matter how brutal it might seem, or how loud, or how nonsensical, like if something in that music is speaking to your parents, or you as a child, or whoever you are, like that's something that's important, and it's as a nurturing relationships within a family, it's something to think about, and that's your family. You're this kind of from the same cloth. If there's something that appeals to you, who knows, it might appeal to your children or your parents.